I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons, my Bibliosprand, Bibliohowlers, and Bibliomancers. Thank you so much for supporting my hobby and passion even more. It means so much to me. Hi everyone, Petrik here. Today's video will be something that is not too positive, but I try to do this kind of video only once a year, and that is to inform you some fantasy series, some fantasy and sci-fi series that I won't continue. I'm doing this in order to inform you because many of you usually ask when I will continue reading a series or when I will review a particular series. So doing this kind of video once a year, I think I can let you know some series that I won't continue anytime soon. I try to not say never because sometimes reading mood can just suddenly appear, but I think for the next 15 series I'm going to mention, I think I'm quite confident that I won't be continuing with any of them for the next 3 or 4 years. Yeah, I have done this kind of video at the end of last year, and now I'm going to do it once more. I think I'll try to do it only once a year at the end of the year, like now. Once again, these are just my opinions, and if you're waiting for me to review any of this series, the continuation of any of this series, then I'm afraid to say that you probably won't see me reviewing them anytime soon. There are 15 series, well 16 series on this list, and one of them is a graphic novel, so I'm going to start from a graphic novel first, and that is a very popular one, and it's called Saga. Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples. This is, I think, arguably one of the most popular and highly praised graphic novels, and I'm not saying that this graphic novel series is bad. No, it's not the case, but also at the same time, I've read 6 volumes and I still have no deep affection towards the series. I feel like I've read 6 volumes and I'm just okay with the series so far. It has been plenty of years since I've read the 6th volume, and I must say that I have lost interest in continuing with the series, so I don't think I will be continuing with this one anytime soon. So yeah, I know that this one is a very popular graphic novel series, so again, I apologize for it, but well, I've gotta be honest, I have lost interest in reading Saga. And now let's talk about novels. And the first series of fantasy novels that I don't think I will be continuing anytime soon, it is The Wayward Children by Seanan McGuire. The first book is Every Heart a Doorway. I've read only the first book, Every Heart a Doorway. And at first I thought I'm going to thoroughly love the novella, but after I got to the second half of it, I felt like it was completely disappointing, and I actually enjoyed reading the first half so much more than the second half. And it has been quite a while since I've read Every Heart a Doorway, and I have lost interest in continuing with this series. And I know that Wayward Children is again a very beloved fantasy series. I know that many people love this series, and I love the illustrations by Rowena Kai for the series, whether it's the interior artworks or the cover art. I think they are gorgeous, but I think overall, even though I've read only the first book, even though I heard that the second book and beyond keeps getting better, but right now I just don't have any interest in continuing with this series. But again, as I said in the beginning of this video, never say never. Who knows, maybe someday my reading mood to read this series will occur and I will continue. And then the next series that I won't be continuing is again another popular one, and it is Legends of the Condor Heroes by Yong. The first book is A Hero Born. I've read only A Hero Born, and I must say that this is probably a case of horrible translation. But again, I cannot fully prove whether this is truly the case or not. But my experience of reading the English translation of A Hero Born, it was really disappointing. So disappointing. Legends of the Condor Heroes is, well, a TV series that kinda means a lot to me because I used to watch Legends of the Condor Heroes back when I was a kid together with my family, and I think in a way the story in Legends of the Condor Heroes, even though I haven't read the books, has special meaning to me because I used to watch them together with my family. So when I heard that there would be an official English translation to the first book, A Hero Born, and also the series, I was excited. But after reading the first book in English, I was so disappointed. I mean, let's take a look at the names only. And I'm going to use a random example here. For example, well, not really a random example, but I think this is the best kind of example. And that is Jon Snow. Jon Snow from A Song of Ice and Fire. So we know what's the meaning behind the word snow. When it gets translated to other language, well, Jon Snow should still be called Jon Snow. But in the case for A Hero Born, every single character has been literally translated from their original names. So for example, if Jon Snow was, let's say, to be translated to other language, or well, to Indonesian for example, he will be called Jon Salju, which is ridiculous, just ridiculous. But this is the kind of situation, just one of the kind of situation that happens in A Hero Born, and it was so distracting to me. I don't know whether this situation will be applied to the sequels or not, and if you have read the series, do let me know whether this is the case or not. But again, I have just, well, lost my motivation to continue with Legends of the Condor Heroes after the first book. And the next fantasy series that I don't think I will continue is City of Sacrifice series by Michael R. Fletcher. Now, I think many of you know that Michael R. Fletcher is one of my favorite grimdark fantasy authors. I mean, his Manifest Delusion series remain among one of the best grimdark fantasy series that I've read. And it's not only that, I have also enjoyed reading the first book in the Obsidian Path, the Blackstone Heart. And I still need to continue with the Obsidian Path series, but when it comes to the City of Sacrifice, I don't particularly hate the series, but also after reading the second book, I have just lost the motivation to continue. And to be honest, it's not up to the point where it gets so bad that I don't want to continue to reading the third and final book. However, in order for me to read the third and final book of the series, I don't know when that will be released, I have to reread the series from the beginning because I have forgotten so many details about it, and I don't think I want to do that. Well, I don't think I want to do that anytime soon. As I said, the second book, even though it has very gorgeous cover art by Felix Ortiz, I just don't have any interest in reading it again. It was tedious, and I think the middle book syndrome was really strong here. Not too many important events happen, and everything just happens in a circle. So yeah, unfortunately, even though I really love Manifest Delusions and I certainly will continue reading the Obsidian Path, I don't think I will be reading through the final book in the City of Sacrifice series by Michael R. Fletcher. And then the next series that I won't be continuing is the Dragonslayer series by Duncan M. Hamilton. So Dragonslayer, the trilogy, has quite a striking cover art. The cover art is done by Richard Anderson, which is one of my favorite artists. But unfortunately, after reading the first book, it was just so cliche, and usually I don't mind reading a cliche story, but when it comes to Dragonslayer, there is really nothing special about it. In my opinion, there is really nothing special or memorable about it. Seriously, if you ask me what's going on in the Dragonslayer now, all I remember is that there is a dragon, there is a knight, there is a priest. That's it. I don't remember anything else. It has been quite a while since I've read Dragonslayer, and yeah, I don't think I will be continuing with this series. I actually unhauled the first and second book already, the physical copy of the first book and the second book of the series, because yeah, I don't think I'll be continuing with the series. For the next two series I'm going to mention, both of them are inflicted with the same issue, and that is I have to reread the entire series again in order to get to the last book of the series, and I don't think I want to do that. And the first one is the Serpent Gates duology. I know the Serpent Gates duology by A.K. Larkwood is it's a two-book series, and I've read the first book, The Unspoken Name, and I have actually gave praises towards The Unspoken Name. High praises. I really love the world building, and when I first read through The Unspoken Name, I was very impressed with it. But you know, right, that kind of feeling where you've read the series, you've read the book, and after the passage of time, you started to think like, why did I actually enjoy reading the book again? And that is unfortunately what happened with me and The Unspoken Name. I think I was actually too generous with my rating for The Unspoken Name when I first read through it, because right now I don't remember much of it that I actually enjoyed, except that it has great world building, but that's it. Even though the second book, The Thousand Names, is out already, yeah, I don't think I will be continuing with this series. Not anytime soon anyway, because as I said, I have to reread the first book again, and with how many books in my TBR, I don't think my motivation to reread The Unspoken Name will appear anytime soon. And the next one is the Sun Chronicles by Kate Elliott. The first book is Unconquerable Sun. So the second book is, I think it is out now, but it has been a while since I've read Unconquerable Sun. And I remember that this is an Alexander gender bent retelling, if I'm not mistaken, in a space opera setting. And I remember enjoying the first book. It did took me almost half of the book for me to feel invested in it, but yeah, it has been years since I've read Unconquerable Sun, and because I need to reread it again before I get to Furious Heaven. I've read many books, many series every year, so by the time the next book in the series comes out and there is no detailed recap of what happened in the first book, I'm sad to say that my memories aren't strong enough to remember all the details of the first book in order for me to fully enjoy what's going on in the second book. So until my motivation to reread Unconquerable Sun appears someday, I won't be reading Furious Heaven and the continuation anytime soon. I still have about 8 or 9 series left on this list, and every one of them is a series I'm going to DNF. I don't think I will be continuing with them. Well, again, I don't want to say never, but yeah, I don't think I will be continuing with them anytime within the next 3 or 4 years. And the first one is the Goddess War series by Jon Skovron. The first book is The Ranger of Marzana, and I will just say that the Goddess War trilogy, the Goddess Wars trilogy, has one of the best set of cover art I've ever seen in fantasy. All of them are done by Magali Villeneuve. However, it is just such a shame that the first book, The Ranger of Marzana, is among one of the most disappointing books that I've read. Everything about it just felt mediocre. And I just want to mention that I have done a full spoiler review for every book, every series that I mentioned on this list. So if you go to Goodreads or Novel Notions, my blog, you can actually find my spoiler review for each book I mentioned here. And you will find out why, in details, why I didn't enjoy them. And in the case of Ranger of Marzana, I will just say that the characterizations, the pacing, almost every single thing in the book just didn't click with me. And yeah, I'm not continuing with the series. All I remember about this series now is that it has a very gorgeous cover art done by Magali Villeneuve, but that's it. And then the next series that I won't be reading is the Sunsurge Quartet by David Hare. So this series is actually the continuation to the Moontide Quartet, and I've really enjoyed reading the first 2 books in the Moontide Quartet, but the third book and the fourth book, especially the third book, Unholy War, yeah, it is one of the worst books that I've read. I gave it a 1-star rating, and trust me, I rarely gave a 1-star rating, but for Unholy War, or should I say I'm Horny War, everything about this book just speaks of horniness, and well, it is just so out of place. I have done a full review for this one, and seriously, just read it and you will know why I hate Unholy War so much. And because of how much I hated reading Unholy War, I read the final book just for completion's sake, and it was alright. It was alright. There were some good scenes, there was some good sequence in the final book, but overall it's just not enough to make me want to continue reading the continuation series. So yeah, I won't be reading Sunsurge Quartet at all. And then the next series that I won't finish is from an author that I really enjoyed. Yeah, I've really enjoyed reading her books, and that is Jen Williams. So I really love the Winnowing Flame trilogy. The Winnowing Flame trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. But her first trilogy, the Copper Cat trilogy, I've read the first book, The Copper Promise, and I think the format of The Copper Promise really didn't do me any favor, because The Copper Promise is actually a collection of short stories or novellas in the Copper Cat trilogy, and overall it just didn't work really well with me, seriously. But out of all the series mentioned on this list, I think this one has the biggest chance of me giving it a try again someday, because I love Jen Williams' books, and I know that judging from what I've heard from many reviewers who have read both the Copper Cat trilogy and also the Winnowing Flame trilogy, pretty much everyone agreed that the second book and also the third book in the Copper Cat improved so much. But again, in order for me to get to them, well, I have to reread the first book, The Copper Promise, and I really didn't enjoy reading The Copper Promise. So I guess we'll see when that will happen. But for now, I don't think this will happen anytime soon. I'm more interested in reading Talon's sister, Jen Williams' newest book to be released in 2023. And then the next series that I won't be continuing is the Forever Sea series by Joshua Philip Johnson. This is one of the cases where the cover art really got my attention. I mean, the cover art to the Forever Sea is done by Mark Simonetti. Yes, one of my favorite artists. And Mark Simonetti rarely do cover art for US or UK publication. Unfortunately, I don't even know why. But yeah, that is the case. But after seeing the cover art to the Forever Sea, I was so interested, especially hearing that this is a Ghibli-inspired fantasy novel. And after reading through it, well, I can say that the world building was certainly mesmerizing, but again, the characterizations, everything just left a lot to be desired, and I don't think I will be reading through the sequel. And then the next series that I'm going to DNF is the God King Chronicles by Mike Brooks. The first book is The Black Coast, and I remember jumping into The Black Coast after hearing so many praises from some reviewers that really loved The Black Coast. And well, it was disappointing. I don't think I remember anything about it at all now, except for their unique manner of speech. The characters have a unique manner of speech in the series. And if you want a more positive reviews, a more detailed positive reviews for the God King Chronicles, I suggest checking out Sarah Reed's review for the series. I think she enjoyed this one so much more than I did, and I think she did a great job in explaining the strength and weakness of the series. But for me personally, I don't think I will be continuing with the God King Chronicles series. Plus, I still don't know why the second book has to use an artwork from Sekiro done by Anatole Finstark. Anatole Finstark is a terrific artist, and Anatole Finstark obviously did a great job as always in doing the illustrations for Sekiro and many from Software Games or Berserk. But well, I just don't know why it's being used as the cover art to the second book of the series. Sekiro is being used. It's just so weird, a weird decision for me, because Sekiro is a very popular game, and those who have played Sekiro will immediately recognize that, well, the art is actually from the game. And the next series that I won't continue, unfortunately, will have to be Song of the Shattered Sands by Bradley Beaulieu. The first book is 12 Kings of Sharakai. I've read only the first book of the series, and it instantly made me lose interest in continuing with the series, which is unfortunate because, again, this series have some of the best cover art in the entire fantasy genre in my opinion. Whether it's the first book or the second and third book, which is done by Donato Giancola, and then Micah, I've stayed doing the fourth until the sixth book, the cover art, all of them looks absolutely beautiful, and the interior formatting also looks very nice. But when it comes to the series, the only memorable thing, at least for me, is that it has intricate world building, but that's it. The characterizations matters most to me, and this is unfortunately the one thing that is very much lacking in Songs of the Shattered Sand, in my opinion. And I don't think I'll be continuing with the series, not anytime soon. We only have 2 more series on this list, and the next one is The Glass Immortals by Brian McClellan. The first book, well, only the first book is out so far because it's out this year, and it is In the Shadows of Lightning. In the Shadows of Lightning by Brian McClellan was one of my most anticipated books of this year, and I was so disappointed with this one. So disappointed. I think it is a far cry from Brian McClellan's books in the Powder Mage universe, especially for Promise of Blood and also Sins of Empire. In the Shadows of Lightning felt like a very safe book. It's not pushing any new ground, and if you have read any of Brian McClellan's books, well, you have read the superior version of them. At least in my opinion. Everything about it just felt so okay. Seriously, it's not bad, it's not amazing, it's just okay. Which, in a way, I don't think that's really a good thing. Yeah, because it means that it is, well, forgettable. And yeah, I already forgot so many details about this book, and I've just read this book within this year. So for this one, at least until the series is completed, I don't think I will be reading through the Glass Immortal series. And finally, the last series on this list that I don't think I will be continuing is the Elder Empire series, the twin Elder Empire series by Will Wight. Yes, the author behind Cradle. So I really enjoyed reading the first book in Elder Empire Sea and Elder Empire Shadow. As far as the first book goes, these two actually top over Cradle. But again, I think I'm still confused on how I should tackle reading this series, because with these two series, if we're reading them back to back, we are tackling many similar events, and I don't know whether the format of the series, of the twin series itself, is actually doing good things for the series or not, because after I got to the second book, it felt very tedious. So for example, first I read the first book in Elder Empire Sea, and then after that, I have to read the first book in Elder Empire Shadow. These two books have so many connecting events. In a way, you're like reading the same events again from a different point of view. Well, that is what happened anyway. You're reading many similar events from a different point of view characters. And after you get to the second book, remembering that you have to do it again for the second book and then again for the third book, for me, it just felt, well, tedious. And now, after I've read the first two books in Elder Empire Shadow and the first book in Elder Empire Sea, I have lost my motivation to continue to reading Elder Empire Sea and also the third book of the Twin series. So yeah, I don't know when I will be continuing with this one, but for now, I'm going to call it a DNF. So yeah, I think that's it for me today. Do let me know whether you have read any of the series I mentioned, and do you enjoy it or dislike any of them. And just as a reminder, remember that these are just my opinions. These are not facts. The purpose of this video is to inform you, for those of you who are waiting for me to review any of the series. Well, I have to say you will be waiting for a very long time. Even though I don't want to immediately say that I won't be reading through any of this series, but you know what? My TBR pile keeps increasing, and there are still so many amazing books that I want to reread. So the chances of me going through this series that I just mentioned is very low. Yeah, it is incredibly low. So yeah, I don't really like making this kind of video, but once in a while I think it is quite mandatory for me to do, well, a negative video. Yeah, it is kind of mandatory. But overall, if you take a look at my channel, I think you will realize that most of my content will revolve around books that I love. So yeah, I think that's it for me today. Do let me know your thoughts on this video. Do let me know your thoughts on this series if you have read them. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.